I think people need to stop focusing so much on race. Certainly on the center right side of the argument. I firmly believe in a colorblind society, and I think the color of your skin shouldn't matter any more than the color of your eyes or the color of your hair, and we should focus on people's character. That was what Martin Luther King, talked about, and I think we got there. Probably, I think we were there late 90s, early 2000s. It doesn't mean that there's no such thing as racism. But in the same way that everybody in this country has probably experienced crime or been a victim of crime one way or another, we are not a criminal country. And this is the nuance that I'm trying to get across. People often think that I'm making excuses for prejudice and so on. What I'm trying to say is that you can't use the actions of a minority to taint everybody else. But when it comes to Conservative Party members, nobody has been more supportive of me.
Your parents came here in the 1980s. Why did they choose to come to the UK from Sri Lanka?
Well, you should probably speak to my parents about that, but I actually don't think it's particularly relevant. My parents did not come here on a boat across the channel illegally.
No, I didn't say
illegally, and they've contributed to this country. And I put it to you. You know what? I actually put it to you. You would not be asking this question. There's actually something fundamentally interesting about you asking me that question, because the insinuation of your question is that there is a limit to how restrictive an immigration policy I can advocate for on the basis that my parents happen to be immigrants. And I'm afraid I think there's something very unreasonable about that line of questioning.
No, I think you're deriving the wrong insinuation. I'm interested to know why they came to Britain. I wonder if it was because it's seen as an empathetic and accommodating place.
Well, my father qualified as a medical doctor and came here. He travelled all around the country. Between them, my parents have given 50 years of service to the NHS. My parents did not come here because they were expecting free taxpayer accommodation, free meals, taxi services around the country, and basically to be able to live a life of leisure, including taxpayer-funded days out at the taxpayer's expense. Those are reasons they did not come here. And again, the reality is, in the early 1980s, in fact, for decades, this country did indeed have one of the most successful immigration programs in the world. I would argue my parents are a shining example of that. I'm really proud of them. But what we've seen now is a population explosion. We've seen untrammeled illegal immigration. And if you can't tell the difference between people like my parents coming here in the early 1980s, when net immigration was between 30 and 50,000 a year, and legal migration at around 1 million a year, which is what it was 18 months ago, for example, and hundreds of thousands of people coming here illegally and being put up at the taxpayer's expense. I think British people see a fundamental difference between those things.
I absolutely can tell the difference, of course. And just to be clear, there was no prejudice in me asking you that question. I'm interested to know what their experience was and what they thought of the UK, which made them want to come to the UK. Just to be clear, there was nothing else insinuated by that.
I'll take you at your word on that.
Good, because that's where it comes from. Nevertheless, you talk about the rhetoric here and the separation. Of course, there are plenty of people like your mum and dad who came here to work and to give good service to the NHS and everything else. Is the rhetoric around this conflating the issues between legal migration that we have needed for a long time in the UK and illegal migration, which, comparatively speaking, numbers-wise, is a lot smaller?
I think they're both totally out of control. Again, in the early 1980s, we can talk about when my parents came in the early 1980s, net immigration hovered between 30 and 50,000 a year. If we look at what's happened since 2010, for example, we've seen the population of this country increase by 10%. Over 95% of that is through immigration. And look at the payload, look at the effect that has on public services. For example, real spending on the NHS in that time has doubled to cope with that increase of 10%. And we have fewer hospital beds as a result. And under the Boris wave, for example, the 3.8 or so million people who came here under Boris Johnson, and as a result of his policies, the majority of those people did not come on work visas. In fact, the vast majority did not come on work visas. So legal migration has been totally out of control in terms of numbers. And on top of that, here's what's really important as well. Democracy matters, and the legal mandate matters. The democratic mandate matters. The Tories, in 4 consecutive manifestos, won elections in no small part because they committed to bringing legal migration down to the tens of thousands. They left office with that number at almost 1 million. So that number's out of control. And illegal migration is also totally out of control. Both of those things can be true at the same time, and they are.
Zia Yusuf.